I recently released a roguelike game called Hollow Survivors, where you slash through hordes of enemies to reach the top of the tower, similar to Hades. The game has sold 4,000 copies, earned $30,000, but I still want to make it better, and so I'm still working on it. My name is Danny Deer, and this is a month of game dev. Let's go back in time to the week before the release. At the time, I felt that most of the game was ready, but I realized it still lacked something that's very important. I didn't give the player a reason to beat the game. Of course, the whole story was explained in the game's dialogue, but I think it's important to give the player a reason to fight immediately after he starts playing the game. This way, even if he doesn't read the game's dialogue, he still knows what's going on more or less and is invested in the story. So I started working on an intro cinematic, sketched a couple of scenes, sent it out to an amazing artist, and voila, we have an intro. The only problem was it didn't have any sound, so naturally I tried adding it myself, and it absolutely sucked. So I reached out to a sound effects guy on Fiverr, and with his help, the cinematic turned out amazing. Much better than I anticipated, to be honest. One interesting detail to note here is that if you want to import the video into Unity and you want it to play correctly on all the platforms, you need to choose VP8 codec in the import settings. It won't work otherwise. As you can imagine, after launching the game, there were a ton of bugs I had to fix. I jumped right at it, fixing bugs, making balance changes, and I happily finished working on a fresh patch in the evening, released it, and went to sleep. I woke up to alerts about my game crashing, and some users reporting that they've lost their save files. I messed up big time, and I had to revert the changes as fast as possible. Shit happens. Don't release new updates in the evening. It also turned out that my Chinese translations were hot garbage, but fortunately for me, two amazing members of my community literally went through the Chinese translations and fixed all of them. I am truly thankful. Love you guys. Next thing I did was going through all the negative reviews and trying to improve the game as much as possible. I improved the gamepad controls by allowing to attack with the right stick and also showing these spell attack indicators to make aiming easier with the controller. I made the player movement faster, I made the game more forgiving on lower difficulties, and applied a ton of other player feedback. One thing that players complained about, but I couldn't fix quickly, was the lack of variety in player builds. I did agree with the feedback though, so I had to do something about it. I decided to take my time and slowly add more and more card upgrades to choose from when leveling up. My main focus with these new upgrades was that picking them up had to change the gameplay as much as possible. I didn't want them to be a plain stat upgrade like +10 to attack damage. I wanted them to actually impact the way the game is played. Here are a couple of my favorite ones. Boomerang card makes your spell fly back to you after a short delay. Backfire card shoots an additional spell behind you. This stacks well with the card that triples your spell, as well as with the boomerang card, allowing you to deal massive damage. Forbidden Scroll changes your spell into this super cool, overpowered one. There's also a wave attack card that sends a damaging wave when you attack. This stacks nicely with cards like Lightning One, as the wave also applies all on-hit effects. There's a card that executes all monsters below 20% health. That includes bosses, which is nice. Grounded card is very interesting, as it gives you +4% attack damage for every second that you don't dash. This is super OP, but at the same time, not dashing is super hard and dangerous, especially on the higher floors. So I feel like it's a good risk-reward balance. And lastly, there's an all or nothing card that makes you lose all but 1 HP, but also makes all monsters, including bosses, have 1 HP as well. It's either you or them. I made a bunch more of these upgrades. All in all, I doubled the number of cards you can choose from compared to the initial launch, which I feel is a pretty good start. A lot of the upgrade ideas came from my Discord, which just shows you how important and useful a community is. Oh, and I've also added the ability to reroll cards to make the builds a bit less random, added 2 new buildings and 3 more difficulties, as some players needed a bigger challenge. Somewhere during working on all of those updates, I had a bright idea to upgrade my game engine. You see, I was using Unity 2022 and a new shiny Unity 6 was already available. There were probably some new amazing features that I wanted to use from the new Unity version, right? No. So it probably improved the game performance, right? Well, also no. I upgraded because I like having the newest version. And that was a huge mistake. A bunch of stuff stopped working, a bunch of stuff had to be redone, and to make matters worse, the new Unity version had a bug in animator controller and making my game unplayable. Yep, I had to wait a couple of weeks for them to fix the issue. The lesson here is to not upgrade your game engine if you don't need the new features, especially if the game is already released. And if you want to learn even more valuable lessons and reach your goals, try the sponsor of today's video, Brilliant.org. Brilliant helps you become a better thinker and problem solver. With thousands of visual interactive lessons in math, programming, data analysis and AI, it teaches you real skills that can make you real money. For example, I'm using data analysis to pick the genre for my next game so that it sells as well as possible. Learning these skills is hard work, but Brilliant makes it 100 times easier. It's simply a more effective way to learn. To learn for free on Brilliant, go to brilliant.org/DonnyDeer, scan the QR code on screen, or click on the link in the description. Brilliant also has given my viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant.
Overspray and spray.
One especially nasty bug that I had that could be easily avoided is that sometimes saving the game would fail due to the player's antivirus locking the file or some similar reason. I'm using EasySave 3 to save my files, and it turns out you can easily circumvent this issue by enabling the caching option. This makes it so that each save call does not immediately try to save the file to the disk. Instead, it caches all the changes made to the save file during one frame, and then saves these changes to the disk at the end of the frame. If it fails for any reason, it just retries again on the next frame. If you're using EasySave 3, I highly recommend turning that option on. Peace.